So hey guys, and welcome back to 1321. Thank you for joining me today, and I am very sure most of you want to hear the rest of the story. So I'll get right into it. And not that I'm trying to prove a point to my parents. Of course, our parents are or were always right, so respect is always very paramount. I'm not saying do not respect your parents. That's not what I'm advocating for here today. But quick forward to a few months ago, I was on my phone, like now.
Yeah, so I will call myself ambitious, motivated, self-driven. But then the biggest one of all is passion. Yeah. And I am passionate about both the law and women issues. Yeah. And for women issues, I think personally, having grown up, yeah, and being above 18, you start getting into this world where you get to interact with men, and you start sort of feeling the real heat of this world. And sometimes it hits you too hard, like, what, this is what people go through. Oh my god. Then now my whole trajectory shifted, and I decided, maybe let me follow this. Let me follow advocating for the rights of women. I can't just sit here and imagine that everything is okay. We have to challenge what adulthood means, especially for women. Yeah. You can't just be in toxic relationships. You find someone, you're in campus together, they're being beaten. And this is not just for other people. I'm not just fighting for space for other people. I'm also fighting for my own space, because no one is free unless all of us are free. So yeah, so that's what I do. And I am passionate about gender, and I'm also passionate about the law, the whole story about upholding the constitution, upholding the rule of law. Yeah, so that's how I would describe myself.
That sounds really amazing. Did you have like a background yourself with this domestic violence or something of this nature, or is it just the passion because of the people around you that inspired this?
For me, it is a personal thing, yeah, and I think one thing I will invite you to probably think of is that violence, and especially gender-based violence, is not just physical, yeah.
Notice me jumping immediately to domestic violence, and I'm glad Immaculate was able to stop me right there, and I took her invitation to learn quite seriously. So I educated myself a bit on the matter, because most of the time we all make this mistake, and gender-based violence is not only physical assault, it's not only domestic assault. Gender-based violence can be defined as a violence that is directed against the person on the basis of their gender or sex, including acts that inflict physical, mental, or sexual harm or suffering, threats of such acts, coercion, and other deprivations of liberty. It includes physical, sexual, and psychological violence perpetrated or condoned within the family, the general community, or by the state and its institutions. Such violence can take many different forms.
So just because someone never hit me, it doesn't mean that I am not a gender-based violence, survivor, or I have not been through gender-based violence. It comes through emotional abuse, it comes through physical abuse, it comes through financial abuse.
Immaculate does make valid points. So I also went an extra mile to look at other forms of violence, so that we just on the same page as her on the matter. So I came across the following types of gender-based violence: sexual violence, which includes actual, attempted, or threatened rape, including marital rape; sexual abuse and exploitation; forced prostitution, amongst others. As well, there's physical violence, which includes actual, attempted, or threatened physical assault or battery; slavery and slave-like practices and trafficking. emotional and psychological violence. This includes abuse and humiliation such as insults, cruel and degrading treatment. Harmful traditional practices include FGM, for example, forced marriage, child marriage, honor or dowry killings, or miming, amongst others. There's so many to name. Socioeconomic violence. This includes discrimination and denial of opportunities or services on the basis of sex, gender, or sexual orientation, exclusion, legal practices such as denial of the exercise and enjoyment of civil, social, economic, cultural, and political rights, mainly to women and girls, unfortunately.
So for me, anytime a man treats me like I am less of a human being, invalidating your feelings, you're telling him this is what I want in this relationship, and you're met with no, you're a woman, or someone throwing clothes at you to wash for them, like all these, there are aspects of gender-based violence that, how do I say it? They make me angry. Like I don't like being treated like less of a human being just because I am a human. I am a woman, and that is the inspiration for this work. Just changing mindsets, It doesn't have to be me being the lesser one, you being the top one. We can be equal, we can coexist, and we can live this life without having to select one of us to be the subdued one or the quiet one here. So for me, that's my inspiration, yeah. I will not say that I have been a victim of physical violence, no, but I feel like violence shows itself in very many forms, and I have definitely experienced that. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Very interesting perspective. And I was also curious about, are you like just a feminist?
So first things first, what is feminism? A definition for a feminist, on the other hand, depends on every individual. I bet many of us didn't know as well that men could be feminists.
Or you said you're also passionate about gender in general. So does this mean you're also just as enthusiastic about violence also for men, because it's not really spoken of, or it's not really treated as something that is major as much as it's there?
Whenever we hear gender-based violence, we automatically jump on women issues. But it is important also to note that GBV does not explicitly affect women. It affects men as well. Anyway, let's go back to our interview.
Yeah, what is your stance on that in general? Do you think, do you believe it exists? Definitely, we all believe so, I guess. But at the same time, do you think there's enough being done about gender-based violence that is directed towards men? We hear a lot of voices for the women, but I feel like it lacks for the men somehow. Is it because the men kind of always shy away to complain about these things? Yeah, what is generally your perspective on the issue? Have you come across a lot of these cases? Have you heard of personal stories?
I think the first thing I'll say is the reason why I'm speaking more for women, and even for my introductory part, is because I am a woman, right? I can't start saying men. I can't speak with as much conviction when I speak of the men's side of the story, right? So that's why for me my focus is on women, because I feel like I understand them, I understand where they're coming from. But I think it is very important, and I'm glad that you raised it. Men are actually victims of gender-based violence. That is admitted, and I accept that, And if you read the book by Justice Sitati, that it's called Predators, yeah? She highlights very well how men, especially young boys, have been victims of gender-based violence, with sodomy and even other forms. And even women, us women, by the way, we can be perpetrators of gender-based violence against men, Having sexual relations with a man against his will is a very big reality. Like, it is a reality. Just the same way you can be coerced into sex, it is the same way that a woman can also coerce a man into sex, or there's something that has been going on Twitter about women throwing tantrums. No, it's not a tantrum. It's you hitting this man. It's you hitting his phone. It's you shouting for the whole plot to come and see that you're fighting. So it is very admitted. The only issue, I guess, is just what you said. Men are not coming out enough to complain about these issues. You see, if you're the victim, not many people will come and complain for you. You have to take the matter up and actually complain on your own. So I think there's definitely a failure on the part of men to complain, because like I said, I can't speak with that much conviction when I speak about a man's case, but I can speak with that conviction when I'm speaking about the female side of the story. So yeah, that is what I think.
In a society where we raise our men to think that crying is not man enough, or being too emotional is not man enough, or men should not act a certain way, or a man's place is not in the kitchen, so a man should never enter a kitchen. With such beliefs, and we causing damage also to our men, like growing up, are we not misleading them? Why are we not allowing them to be in touch with their feelings or their emotions? And they just as human as women are. So it's not just the sodomy or harassment by their wives that they do not speak about. Our society also has a role in making men believe that if they do get in touch with their feelings or act a certain way, then they're weak. What are we teaching them? If they suffer in the hands of women, it's also a sign of weakness. So this man would prefer not to talk about it, but instead just die with it. Why should we make people feel like this? And this is for this particular reason I raised it with my guest, Immaculate Were. She's definitely given her view on the matter, but I would like to see more of men coming out and also telling us their experiences, because as we will go on with the interview and find out, most of this gender-based violence, domestic violence, are undocumented even for women. What about men then? If women do not even speak up, what will our men do? Because them speaking up is not man enough. Women are not believed. What are we as a society doing to our people is my question. Linger on that.
Why I brought that up is also because we also have a tendency of seeing this with a few blogs or a few bloggers that I follow sometimes, and then when something pops up on the women, like something happens about women, then the men will also come out and say, what about us? We also go through these things, but then at the same time, we're not denying that they go through it, but at the same time, we don't see much of it. That's the only reason I just wanted to see your view on the same. But which brings me to another interesting thing. I was reading an article, I think it was done by UN, and it was showing that gender-based violence is actually something that is not not much qualitative research has been done on the same. So it's very difficult to say, like, it is there, yes, and I mean this for all genders, but at the same time, they do not really, people tend to not come forward. So because of this, we cannot really have data or sufficient records for the same. What do you think, or what do you tend to do differently, for example?
So I think number one, I will admit there is no enough research because most of the time gender-based violence is intimate. That's not the thing. It is behind closed doors, you know. Like if I'm going out there to say that I have suffered from gender-based violence, especially when it comes to financial and emotional, you know, or even verbal abuse, everyone will be like, where's the evidence? And you see, the truth is there is actually no evidence, yeah? Because these words that this person said, they were carried by the wind. Even if he called me a prostitute and I'm his wife, even if he called me a hoe, even if he calls me anything, there's no record of it, because I'm not walking around with a recorder in my house waiting for gender-based violence to happen. So the intimate aspect of it, that is where the problem comes in. Yeah, however, I think all hope is not lost, you know, in cases of rape, and marital rape, again, is another thing that comes to mind. Yeah. In cases of rape, there is evidence where you can go to a police station or you can go to a doctor. But even in all these platforms, women are not received the way they should be received. You're being told, maybe you asked for it, or you're being dressed skimpily. So I agree with you 100% that there's no evidence. There's no much data that is going around. And you see, we cannot even blame the people who are taking these statistics. So what can I do to solve it? I guess that's what you asked. So personally, I have a blog. It's a startup blog. And if you go to the Instagram page, Sauti ya Mama, you'll see a little link up there. The blog is not there yet. Yeah, it literally has nothing except one story on motherhood. Yeah. But what I intend to do, since I have a startup, is to tell the stories of women, right? You know, sometimes people will always pretend not to listen to you, or pretend to tell you, you're not saying anything, keep quiet. But you say it enough times, finally someone will begin listening to you, right? And the more stories you tell, these are statistics in the making. You know, this person said this is what happened to them, they described it. This is their story, this is their story. At the end of the day, we're not going to achieve statistics tomorrow. No, that is not true. I'm not going to fill my blog with stories of women tomorrow. That is absolutely not true. But what I can do is I can tell one story at a time. You know, today this is Immaculate, this is her story, this is what she went through. We are just telling victims, we are hearing you, we are listening to you, we understand what you are saying, and in the long run, these stories become statistics. When this organization grows, and we will probably go into taking statistics and everything. But for now, I am personally focused on telling the stories of women, yeah, which I think is enough for me on my part right now. Can be a form of statistics. Look at this one woman who said this, look at this other one who said this, and that is a statistic in itself. Yeah.
Now, with the things you've said, I've picked up so many questions, so I hope I don't forget them along the way, because I also don't want to bombard you with so many questions just in one go.